All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Masters in Travel podcast. Today, I have a solo episode for you. It's Brianna, if you couldn't tell. And we are chatting about all things money, all things profit. And I really want to kind of have a conversation that focuses on what I believe matters the most when it comes to talking about money and the numbers in our business. Here's the truth. If you have a revenue goal, but you can't pay yourself what you want, is that really a win? Well, let's fix that today because I think what happens is that a lot of times people will chase top line numbers. Advisor will chase numbers like total travel sold or total revenue, things like that. And the thing that I want to kind of shift our mindset about is how can we start designing profit on purpose? So here's what we're going to be doing today, just to kind of get everybody on the same page. I'm going to define 5 numbers that matter most. And once we are all on the same page, we'll just use a quick on-air calculator of sorts that starts with what you want to take home and work backwards. I want you to be the most focused on what is in your pocket, what is in your bank account, more so than what you made Marriott or Four Seasons or on the waterways, whatever the case may be. That's all fine and good. Being a top producer, I'm sure you get a nice trophy, but what matters most is what's in your bank account. So let's focus on that. And then we're going to shape our revenue so profit goes up without burnout. This, I think, is possible. I don't want to just show you how to work more, make more, and then be so kind of overwhelmed that it isn't fun, it isn't lighting you up. That's not the goal at all. What I really want to do is show you how to make the profit and the income that you truly desire. And so in order to make this episode really, really practical and kind of like give you something to make sure that everybody is thinking of it and seeing it the same way, I decided, hey, let's chat about how there are realistic paths to paying yourself $100,000. Now, this is going to have to factor in your commission splits or how much you spend on travel, because that is an expense that affects your margin. But I really do believe that even if you are working primarily as a solo advisor, meaning you might have, a contractor or a VA for some work, but for the most part, you are carrying your business on your own. It is possible to pay yourself a paycheck that you're proud of. And I picked $100,000 because I like the sound of 6 figures, but this could be either far too high, far too low for where you're at in your business. That isn't really the point. You can pick whatever number matters to you and plug this in and do the math the same way. But I want more advisors really understanding how they can make their business work in a way that pays them a paycheck that they could be proud of. Not necessarily you make a lot of revenue, but you're at looking at the end of the year being like, well, wow, I still feel stretched really thin. Or you're like, wow, I sold so much travel, it still feels like I'm struggling. That's because you're focusing on the wrong numbers. So let's change that and get everybody really focused on the profit and what goes in your own bank account. Let's start with the 5 numbers that matter and that we're going to be talking about the most today. So when I say revenue, I'm talking about money that actually hits your account, yours. This is your commissions and your fees. This is not the client's total trip cost. This is not what your host agency brings in. It's none of those things. This is money that is in your account. So here's the 5 numbers. Collected revenue. This is commissions, planning, design fees, concierge fees, all of the fees that both your clients pay you and that you earn from your suppliers, your hotel partners, all of that. That's your collected revenue. That's the big number. Next is the operating expenses in your business. This is all the tools that your business uses to operate. This is a CRM of choice, your Travel Joy, your Turn, what have you. This is your website and your hosting platform. This is any marketing that you pay for. This is your consortia fees, your insurance policies, your E&O, your contractor payments if you are paying out for additional help, your education or subscriptions, your fam trips, all of those go under operating expenses. This is the next number to know. Your next number is your net profit, and that is simply the collected revenue, number 1, minus your operating expenses, the number 2. That gives you your net profit. Then you have your owner's pay. This is your salary plus any distributions or draws. Now, I don't know how you pay yourself. I am not your accountant, your CPA, any of that stuff beyond my pay grade. We all pay ourselves differently. However, I think you should be paying yourself. You need to know what you're paying yourself. So owner's pay. And then the 5th number is your profit margin, which is simply the net profit of your business divided by your collected revenue. That is going to give you a percentage. So let's anchor this in some real numbers so we all make sure we're thinking and talking about the same thing. Say in 2025, your business collected $180,000. Yay, you, right? Over the year, you spent $70,000 on operating expenses. This is, again, all of the things that I mentioned. Your subscriptions, your CRM, some marketing stuff that you paid out for, the consortium fees that you needed to pay, your insurance policy, the 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 FAMs that you went on, whatever it is. All of those are your operating expenses. That added up to $70K. This means your business had a profit of $110,000 for the year. That's a 61% margin. Now, here's the thing. Did you make $110,000? No, you did not. That wouldn't really work. Did you make $180,000? No, you absolutely did not. So after that $110,000 and noting that you had a 61% margin, your owner's pay comes out of that profit. But also the thing that comes out is taxes, because Uncle Sam gets his, and any cushion that you keep in your business, because that is a smart business move. So again, you see how that number drops and drops and drops and drops. We want to understand, what do we want going in our pocket? And then what, therefore, do we need to do working backwards so that that can be true? So instead of starting with travel sold, start with what you actually want to take home and then do the math backwards. This is my suggestion to you. If you are not already doing it this way, this is going to make things make a lot more sense when you're really setting goals that matter first and foremost to you and your business. Let's set owner's pay target at $100,000, 6-figure salary. I'm here for it. I hope you are too. So if we set our owner's pay target at $100,000, next we're going to say, okay, let's add taxes. Let's say 25% in this example. So $25,000 for easy math, and a cushion. Let's say $15,000 that we're going to keep in our business. We all need a cushion if we can. If our business is sustainable, we should have a cushion in our business. Now, the needed net profit now is owner's pay plus taxes plus cushion. We're now at $100,000 plus $25,000 plus $15,000, $140,000. Now, the next step is to add our annual expenses. This is where you add the real number. You can, if you have been in business more than a year, go back and see. You can estimate, well, I want to go on this many FAMs this year. I know these are my fixed costs in my business that are never going to change. Here are some educational things that I want to invest in, whatever the case may be. But for easy math, and assuming you aren't going to every conference and FAM available to you, let's say that our expenses are $25,000. That's doable, but maybe not as accurate as yours. But this is just, again, for easy math. So now we know the revenue we need to collect in our business. Fees and commissions total, that's the revenue, because this is equaling our needed profit plus the amount we will need for expenses. So $165,000 would be the total revenue our business needs to make. That is the $140,000, that is profit, plus the $25,000 that is our expenses. Now, how do we translate this to trip value? Because again, I know a lot of you guys think in that manner. How much travel do I need to sell? Well, you need to divide that by your effective commission rate. This, I know, is an estimate because we do a lot of different trips and trip styles, and they have different commission rates attached to them, but you should know your average. So whether that's 10%, 12%, 15%, I want to show you how that number vastly changes based on your effective commission rate that your business is currently using as an average. If you have $165,000 of revenue that you need to have in order to pay yourself $100,000 with all of that scenario, and you are at effective commission rate of 10%, you need to be selling approximately $1.65 million in travel. If you were at 12%, that's $1.38 million of travel. If you were at 15%, that's $1.1 million in travel. So pause here. This is why I say it is not enough for us to all say we want to sell $1 million, because as you can see, all three of those different categories of effective commission rates equals such a vastly different outcome in revenue, right? If I have myself selling 1.1, and I have a 15% effective commission rate, then great. I'm a lot closer to being able to pay myself $100,000 a year versus somebody who's working at an effective commission rate of 10%. So this is an important thing to just pay attention to, and why I just, for a lot of different reasons, don't get me started, like us focusing so much on trip value or total travel sold. Now, the next thing we're going to do, because I know a lot of people do have fees associated, this revenue number is not just needing to be generated from commission. So if we reduce what we need from commission by the fees that we charge, for example, you're doing 40 trips a year, you charge $500 per trip, that's $20,000. So now you need $145,000 from commission, yay, and $20,000 from fees. Again, easy math, just so we're all on the same page. Now, I know many advisors do a commission split with their host. Again, math is not my strong point. I'm not here to do all of these equations, but I just am going to mention it. If you're on a 90-10, 80-20, whatever the case may be, simply multiply your commission by 0.9 or 0.8 for what you actually need to collect before fees, so that you're working with accurate numbers, again, of what goes in your bank account. This is a lot of numbers. I hope that you're keeping up and it is all making sense, but I did want to use actual ideas and actual paychecks to make this really come to life and for everybody to understand and be on the same page when we're talking about this. Now, most advisors pick the revenue goal and hope that profit follows, but I am suggesting to you that the better move here is to shape revenue so that it creates the profit you want. Now, how do we do that? I think that there are levers that we have in our control, by and large, that affects this. Here's a couple of ones that come to mind. Fees, number one, is one of the levers that we have a lot of control over. Whether you charge a design fee, whether you charge additional fees for certain concierge services, whether you charge change fees, whether you charge ticketing, airline fees, all the fees you have is a lever that you can change, pivot with, all of those things that will make a difference. The next kind of lever is the mix and value of the travel you sell. So this is the average booking size or the effective commission that you are earning. And this is like, hey, do I book, with this platform, or do I do UJB? So I get 15%, things like that, right? Better partners, better commission, all of that is good. The next lever we have to think about is what I guess I would call win rate. And this is essentially just how are you converting? So when you're doing better consults, when you're presenting better proposals, so more inquiries become bookings, this is going to definitely increase your profit and then therefore your revenue. And then volume is also another thing that we can think about, and sometimes can be a little harder for us on our own to make a difference right away. But what I'd love for you to do is think about 1 to 2 levers that you can move in the next 60 days and give your focus to, and see how it affects your profit in your business and therefore your revenue. Okay, like I mentioned, I want to show you the path to making 6 figures a year. And when I thought about how best to kind of illustrate this, I wanted to give different scenarios in terms of different business models and how this could look. And then I also want to kind of make sure that I'm painting the picture. This is realistic in you being, again, mostly solo advisor. You might have a contractor help, somebody to help with marketing, whatever the case may be. But essentially, this is your book of business, and you are able to do this with this type of business setup in 3 different ways, because I know all of our businesses look different, but I got to start somewhere. So I picked 3 paths that I could kind of see make sense. So the first one would be more of a high volume, fun and sun, right? Let's talk about we're going to talk about baseline for all three of these trips being, we want to pay ourselves $100,000. We are thinking of taxes being about 25%. So $25,000. We want a cushion in our business. And so we know what we need profit to be, and we're assuming expenses of 25,000. If that's not reality to you, you change that number to what you need it to be. But all in all, what type of business does it need to look like for you to be bringing in $165,000 in commissions and fees? So first, high volume fun and sun. This could be fun and sun, cruise. Essentially what I'm saying is you probably are charging lower fees and the trips are not as complex, but you are able to do a higher volume of them. If you live in all-inclusive and you know the Riviera Maya like the back of your hand, if you understand cruises in a way that I never will, if you just go balls to the wall when it is spring break, because that is when all your clients are traveling, this might be indicative of the type of business you have. So consider an average trip value with this type of business of $12,000, right? And you're getting an effective commission of 10%. That means the commission per trip that you are earning is $1,200. And you charge your clients a design or a service fee of about $150. And so collected per trip is about $1,350. Now, what would need to be true for you to hit that $165,000 collected so that you can pay yourself $100,000? You're going to need about 122 to 123 trips per year. That averages out to 10-ish trips per month. Now, do any of our businesses work on exact averages month after month? No, but at least you know this is what you're trying to average out for the year. So what does that look like in terms of travel sold? This looks like about $1.46 million of travel sold. Let's round up to 1.5 just because it makes my brain a little happier. So that's 122 trips at around $12,000 a piece, gives you 1.46 million, 1.5 of travel sold per year in order to pay yourself $100,000. Is that doable? Yeah, I think it is. Provided that your expenses are in check and that everything else, works out. If you are hiring expenses, you fudge those numbers so they work for you. But you're collecting $165,000 in revenue with this type of business model. You're keeping your expenses around $25K. And so therefore your net profit is $140. You have the money for taxes set aside. You have the cushion set aside, and $100,000 goes in your pocket. So just to recap, 10 trips average per month with a small fee, you're meeting your goal of paying yourself six figures. What's another option? This is the premium FIT kind of route or premium bookings, let's just say. You're doing fewer trips, but I would say this is an average of about $30,000 to $40,000 per trip, and you are charging an elevated fee for your white glove service at $1,000 per trip. So, hey, I know that there are plenty of advisors who work in this realm. It's not quite me yet, but I'm here for it. Average trip value for this type of business is about $35,000 with an effective commission of 15%. This is high, but I know some of those like luxury cruise lines and things like that, they be giving out high percentage commissions, and that is what it's all about. So if you are doing an average trip value of $35,000 with an effective commission of 15%, that means commission per trip for you is around $5,250. With your design fee on top of that of $1,000, that means on average, you are earning $6,250 per trip. So what do you need to do if this is your business model to collect $165,000? You are looking about 26 to 27 trips per year. That's 2 to 3 trips per month. In shorthand, how much travel do you need to sell? $910,000 versus, if you remember, with the high volume, $1.46 million. Do you see the difference here? Why we can't just focus on travel sold? So that's 26 trips at about a $35,000 average gets you to that number. Now, same type of take home is made in a totally different way. You're doing 2 to 3 premium FITs a month and you have a $1,000 fee that you charge your clients. Your goal is met in a totally different way than the first kind of business model that I outlined. Both are doable. They just look really different. And so we can't focus, number one, on volume in the same way, on pretty much anything. They just look totally different. And then option 3 that I wanted to outline is more of the hybrid path, because I think that this is probably more of a lane that a lot of people who do custom FITs, and really kind of when I started thinking about my business and working backwards in the same way, this is kind of where I saw my business at that time as well. And so this is what I say is the hybrid path. It's moderate volume, it's premium touches, but it still gets you to that same outcome, which is paying yourself $100,000, 6-figure salary. So here we have an average trip value of $20K with an effective commission of 12%, commission per trip at $2,400 if those are your numbers. You're doing a design fee or a planning fee of about $600, and that means on average you're collecting $3,000 per trip. So what do you need to hit that? Around 55 trips for the year, which averages to 4 to 5 trips per month. You are selling, if this is your numbers, 55 trips times 20K, about 1.1 million. This model is the closest to understanding when people say, like, I want to sell 1 million and I also want to make 100,000. Like, it is possible. Again, expenses are low here, but that still gets you collected revenue of 165K with expenses at 25K and a net profit of 140, so that you can take taxes out of that, a cushion out of that, and still pay yourself $100,000 with 4 to 5 custom FITs a month. I wanted to have those 3 different business models outlined so that you could see real world business models with real numbers and find yourself and your business in one of these scenarios. And perhaps your business looks a lot different than either of these scenarios. That's okay. But at least it gives you like numbers to crunch and understand how it could possibly work for you trying to pay yourself what you hope to pay yourself. Now, I did mention this briefly, but I do know that the commission split plays a part. So don't dismiss that math. It's important. It just isn't really applicable to my business model. So again, I'm not a math major. I don't like numbers, but that is an important thing to consider. And the other thing I wanted to quickly note is travel as an expense, because by and large, as travel agencies, we have pretty low overhead and expenses. If you add up the things that are absolutely necessary for you to run your business, quite low. Where we go balls to the wall and gets a little haywire is when we start going to conferences and fam trips and all of our personal travel, and all of that is super, super important. But when advisors do spend heavily on travel and it comes in as an expense, that's great for your accountant and it works in our favor. But you should also realize that it definitely does affect the ability for us to pay ourselves what we might be hoping for without us realizing it. So just remember, when you're planning travel, when you're deciding on fam trips, when you are looking to invest in your business, which we all should do, just remember to do an ROI check and make sure that the time spent and the money spent, even though it's a write-off, is coming back to you, and it's enabling you to make more money in your business as well. Very important to kind of keep in mind as well. So again, I have outlined what this looks like, and I believe that most businesses, even working by and large by themselves, could see this and not be overwhelmed, not be burning out, getting to these numbers. And then becomes a time, okay, do I want help? Because this is a lot of work. And if I'm continuing to grow and I'm continuing to scale, hiring help, how do I decide if I can afford that? And what impact is that going to make on what I actually get to pay myself? If you're at the point in your business or just considering in the future, you want to bring on somebody consistently, maybe a client experience person, an admin role that you are consistently paying and is maybe an employee of your business, you have to consider what that role is going to cost you all in, and then what that changes in terms of your expenses, because that's where this number falls, right? So if your old expenses are tight and they're around that $25,000 mark, and now you have hired a part-time admin role and you're paying them $30,000 for the year, that number now becomes $55,000, right? Your profit target still stays at that $140K mark, but your new revenue goal is now 195,000. So if you're doing, let's say, a 12% effective commission on those numbers, your travel sold would have to raise from what it was 1.4 to now 1.6. Okay, now you have actual numbers to work with. And so the question to ask yourself becomes, will that role and that person who now is helping me out in my business free enough time and quality to win, service, etc., the extra volume you now need to get to that amount of business? And if yes, wonderful. Hire, you have a plan. If no, or you just don't know, and it's very unclear how that would actually work, maybe you try a lighter lift first and go back to those levers that we talked about. So maybe you decide, hey, I'm going to raise my fee. And this is something that I have outlined in terms of like, here's my most common trip that I plan, and here's how I add additional value. And so therefore, if I add $300 to my fee, if I'm doing 60 trips, wow, that's another $18,000 in fees alone. Or maybe you shift the mix of types of travel that you're booking. And so where your effective commission was 10%, now you are booking more things that are 12%, 13%, what have you. And so that can change it. Or it could simply be a process fix. Maybe you are working towards cutting proposal revisions from lots and lots of back and forth to two rounds max, and your consults are so locked in that you know the scope and you can get it right and quicker to booking a lot faster. There are different levers that we have that can make the difference and really allow us to see a shift in our overall revenue and therefore profit without hiring, if that doesn't make sense for your business right now. So again, price the complexity of what you're doing and use that fee lever to your advantage, whether that's adding on for longer trips or more complex trips, etc. Understand if there's premium concierge services that you can add and charge for. Understand what your marketing is doing. If you are speaking to the buyer and trips you want, so that your average booking amount rises. And then the scope guardrails that you have in place for your business, so that you are spending time that is accounted for. And then track everything monthly, right? Your revenue, your expenses, your profit, your owner's pay. Make a tweak and then measure it. Don't get to the end of 2026 and not understand what your numbers are doing and why. So what's the takeaway from today? Number one, I hope this was an interesting and helpful just conversation. And it's always hard to tell because a podcast is me talking to me. So please let me know. But what I want for you to take away is that we don't need to just chase travel sold. I hope you get a trophy, but I don't care at the end of the day if it doesn't really make a difference to what your business is doing in terms of supporting you. And so chasing travel sold is not the name of the game. Start with what you want to take home and add taxes, add the cushion, add expenses. Now make that revenue target what you focus on. Decide how much is going to come from fees, how much from commission. Work backwards in that way. If you want a quick sanity check or to make sure that this all is resonating because you think you understood, but you're not quite sure, feel free to hit me up in the DMs and let me know, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what my numbers are saying. Here's what lever I'm going to try for the next couple of months. But most importantly, I want your business to work for you. And I want us all to be satisfied and feel accomplished with what is in our own bank accounts. So here's to a profitable and prosperous 2026. Thanks so much.